So, just as I thought, now the government is going after the independent agency. And one of the independent agencies that are going to go after is about OSHA. Trump sounds a executive order to get control of independent agencies. He's been the one that is going to interpret the law because, of course, he knows a lot about OSHA, about occupational health and safety, right? He doesn't. He really doesn't. And in all honesty, it really sucks that he's doing this, honestly. The one agency that is keeping you, me, safe at a workplace now is going to have to deal with Trump cuts and maybe Trump's interpretation of the law, assuming that he likes the law interpretation. And we know that some of these laws are important. They keep us safe, they protect us when we are at work, but we know that some businesses they see that as an issue for investing money. All safety regulations and also environmental regulations are a few hurdles that prevent certain business from doing what they do. That's why they sometimes go to other countries, because in other countries the laws and the regulations are not the same. And instead of us, United States, pushing for other countries to adopt similar measures, we sometimes don't do that. Granted, some countries are moving into passing more legislation because they are realizing that is of concern, but it takes time. They haven't gotten to that point yet. We got into that because of people that wrote things about health and safety being an issue. And one of the books that I recommend if anybody wants to read, because it's really good, it was the book that started it all in Spring, Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. This book is the one that started the whole environmental movement back in the 60s and 70s that started the EPA, because the EPA was created pretty much during Nixon administration. So if were those for those regulations, will not have the clean waters and the clean air that we now experience. And you know what? The thing that bothers me the most is that I've been in certain jobs that if it was not for this regulation, I could have gotten in trouble. There are safety regulations that need to happen. Um, and just ignoring safety regulations is not a good thing. People can get injured. People can die. Same with environmental regulations. There are toxins in the environment that disposing of chemical substances the wrong way is bad. It's a bad decision because it can cause not only effects to the environment but also eventually to us human beings. Cancer, incidence of cancer, even deaths. Even poisoning. And we have seen that industry sometimes doesn't do the right thing. At least in the past, we said, oh, um, we used to see it more than now, but there are still places that there's contamination still persistent because of industry just not doing the right thing. So I'm against all that. And the other thing is like that bothers me is like now it's also Trump saying asking Liz Zeldin to come on to a point to decide whether he's going to regulate greenhouse gases or not. Here's the thing: you could think that science is woke, that chemistry is woke, but in all honesty, chemistry doesn't care. When you burn fossil fuels of any kind, you're producing CO2. That CO2 is going to stay in the atmosphere until it can be converted back into oxygen. And unfortunately, there's not enough pathways to convert that CO2 to oxygen, it's going to stay in the atmosphere, you know. And if we continue increasing the amount of CO2, eventually and it's the point that we have gotten to, we have already tipped the scale because we produce more CO2 than the environment is able to convert back into oxygen. That's why we have global warming. That's why CO2 is an issue. Whether and it's not debatable. Scientists have come to terms into that. It's like when people don't pay attention, and there's people that think that the earth is flat because, I mean, have they been paying attention to earth science? Because in earth science, we already explained to you, and we're giving you all the science that you need to know to show that shows you that the earth is not flat. Same with vaccine. We have given you the opportunity to gain knowledge in school, in living environment, that they about vaccines. And granted, it's a small knowledge because honestly science is more complex. Even chemistry is more complex. What you learn in school, in public school, is not enough. Doesn't make you a whole expert. When you go to college and you delve deeper into this areas, you learn more. You learn how things work more at a different level. And uh, and people thinking that, oh well, this is woke, this is fake. It doesn't happen. No, no, I'm sorry, but with chemistry is real. It happens whether you agree or disagree with it. Burning fossil fuel will always produce CO2. You know, and look into for alternative sources. That's a good idea too, because for example, let me give you the case of Puerto Rico. You have power plants that produce energy. They are old, they use fossil fuel, but you realize how long it will take to build a new power plant that will use fossil fuels in Puerto Rico. You have to look into different sources of alternative energy too. I think that's a great idea, because honestly, we also, as a nation, we don't have enough fuel for all of us, or even to send to the world like this president wants to do. That's impossible. That's going to be impossible. There's not enough reserves out there. um, so looking at other sources of energy, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea, especially sources that don't require burning of fossil fuels. Taking advantage of that, I think is great. It's a great idea. But no, now everything, when we talk about alternative sources of energy, now it's about being woke. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous, honestly. Um, it's awful. It's like, oh yeah,